New chat logs released by House Republicans show the FBI wasn't just quiet about the Hunter Biden laptop story before the 2020 election. They actually told their own people not to talk about it. A senior FBI lawyer even issued a gag order on an agent to stop them from speaking out. So here to unpack all the latest revelations is Blaze Media senior politics editor Chris Bedford. So, Bedford, look at this update that we get today, right? How does this latest update make the Hunter Biden cover-up even more insidious? I didn't even know that was going to be possible.
But we always knew this is what was going on. Everyone in this room, everyone was watching, we knew that this was crooked. We knew it was corrupt. We knew that top levels of the U.S. government and alumni of the intelligence community were involved. So what we're seeing now is actually unbelievably refreshing, because I covered this the whole time. And now we have the receipts. Now we have things we can insert into the history books. Now people will be able to look back in 50 years and say the entire thing was bogus. The corruption of the Biden family can start to begin to be exposed. How high the protection for them went can begin to be really exposed. And I remember that for the first couple of years I was covering this, whenever Maria Bartiromo or whoever else would say, well, are there going to be consequences? My answer would always be no. That's not really the way that DC seems to work for the left. There are never any consequences. But there's a new sheriff in town, one that I never expected in my lifetime to actually ever see. People who are interested, who are committed to, who are determined to hold people accountable, to make sure that there are firings, to make sure that pensions are taken away, to make sure that they're, when necessary, when crimes have been committed, that actually people are punished accordingly for their interference in civilian government. And it also draws into stark relief just how the party of democracy and promotion and norms. Remember when Joe Biden was elected, it was all about the return of civility, the return of norms. What a lie that whole thing was. And thank God it didn't really work. You could get all the fake historians of the last 50 years, John Meacham and all the other mealy-mouthed people, writing your speeches. The American people looked at it and said, this is stupid. This is bogus. We don't buy it. And now, in real time, you don't have to wait for like 75 years like you did with the Kennedy assassination. You don't have to wait for another 20 years like we probably will have to do with Watergate to get the receipts and learn how presidents were undermined, how mistakes were made, and how our federal government is out of control in real time. And the Hunter Biden laptop story, way bigger than Hunter Biden himself, way bigger than the presidential family corruption itself, was how the entire economy came together to stop it. Remember, it was the Hunter Biden laptop story, even more than the reaction to January 6th, that really rang the death bell for a period of time. It seems like not forever, hopefully not forever, on the American dream. And I don't say that lightly. The idea that if you don't like something, you can build it yourself. If you don't like the way that Facebook moderates content, and Twitter moderates content, and Google moderates content, then you can build it yourself. Well, the Hunter Biden laptop story proved that to be completely false. Not only were they willing to suppress this in time for an election, but then in the months afterwards, Amazon Web Services was willing to rip out the actual serving, the internet servers beneath American companies that had done nothing wrong because they were going along with this disinformation. This whole thing exposed just how corrupt the federal government was, the intelligence services were, the people who protect them were, and the corporate interests that guarded them, that have now come around and are kissing the ring and being friendly and being polite. But you never forget what they did to the people, what they did to the elected representatives for this government, what they did to elect Joe Biden. And just don't use that for vindication always, for going around just for retribution, but use it for building a system that is better and making sure that never happens again.
Gosh, Chris, I hope you're right about the justice, because look, I have every reason to think that Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, these are people who are actively going after it. They know where the bodies are buried or ever. They were aware of a lot of this stuff as it happened, even from the outside. So I hope that happens, because what always happens is you sit in that seat and all of a sudden you think, well, I have to worry about the institution, right? This is what a good person tells themselves. I'm concerned about the reputation of this institution. And in the past, that has been used as an excuse not to fully root it out. But in this case, you have no choice, because we don't trust the FBI at all. And this is why. Could you go into a little bit more about the particulars of what's coming out? I mean, there's a lot here, but I think we've kind of glossed over that. Talk a little bit more about what this means, that the FBI is gagging its own employees.
So when this story first came out, it was the first time that Facebook, which previously had hid behind this independent network of fact checkers, they called it, run very closely by Poynter Institute, which is left wing, and really responsive to the feelings of a lot of other left-wing institutions and the credentialing institutions, had decided we're allowed to be fact checkers. Facebook had always hidden behind them and decided that they weren't going to make any kind of a marketing decision or any kind of a content decision on the validity of what was coming out. When the Hunter Biden laptop story came out, they changed it. This was too big for them. They decided that regardless of fact checks, they were going to ban the sharing of this content, and what was at that point, at that time, one of the biggest sources of news for Americans, including American voters, that was around. People, much less so than reading newspapers, as we know now, or watching cable news, or tuning in even here, were getting their news through Facebook. So when Facebook turns that off, it changes everything. And you saw Good Morning America, you saw all the morning shows in general completely ignore the story. I think some of them gave maybe 45 seconds to a minute and a half, the entire election cycle, to the story. Facebook said the fact checks will come. Now we've learned that FBI analysts immediately reached out and said, we've actually confirmed that this is authentic. This is not disinformation. This is not a deep fake. We don't know exactly where it has come from or how it's been exposed at this point, but we can confirm its legitimacy as Hunter Biden's laptop. And you might remember that fact check that Facebook promised was going to come and justify its actions never came. There was nothing, not even from the hacks over at USA Today or Poynter Institute or the Google School of Journalism, whatever they set up, was ever able to come up with a fact check that showed that the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation. And now we know that the FBI knew that from the very beginning, and that senior members of the FBI clamped down, put a gag order on the analysts who'd been in touch with the tech companies, because the FBI was in close hand-in-glove touch with the tech companies to suppress disinformation, as they called it, which is really a way of waging war, information war on the American people. They put that gag order on. You had top people, top alumni from the American intelligence services signing on to public letters saying that this is fraudulent, this is dangerous. You had the campaign having to answer for this. And this kind of corruption is the sort of thing that actually would have changed votes. This is the kind of corruption that would have exposed what Donald Trump's saying was true. And it's not just the corruption of the Biden family, who was making money off of foreign adversaries, who was making money using the office of the vice presidency, who were acting extremely loose with their legal judgments. Because remember, at that point, Joe Biden hadn't been, when this was going on, when this crime was going on, Joe Biden at that point had not been selected to be the presidential nominee. He was advanced in age. Hillary Clinton was supposed to be president for 8 years. The Bidens never expected to see public scrutiny at this level again. So they decided they were going to go all in on making money, and they didn't care how they were going to do it. He was going to put his son on the airplane. It didn't matter which Chinese businessman, which Ukrainian businessman they were going to meet with. It wasn't a concern to him that the Chinese had a key to his office where he was supposedly working out of, Joe Biden himself, because he was never going to be in the public eye again. Well, all that changed, and all that came out, and the tech companies, in conjunction with the media and in connection with the FBI and the intelligence services, did everything they could to suppress that, including, we've now learned, shutting up what they knew from the very beginning, which is that this material was authentic.
Well, Bedford, great stuff as always. And Chris, it's good to see you back in a suit and tie. Business
I know.
Bedford is back. Sweater Bedford was a one-day thing.
It's a terrible aberration, but I even shaved. It was wonderful. It feels good. I'm back to normal. When I went into the studios this morning, I was recognized.
There you go. They know business Bedford. He has a reputation there in Washington, D.C. that we're happy that you uphold that because somebody has to make D.C. look good. The swamp.